The following podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. Like what you hear? Want more of it ad-free, uncensored, and earlier? Sign up today at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and start getting more for as little as $2 a month.
Don't miss your favorite superstars take center stage to forge the future of the hottest new brand in WWE.
Welcome to Forging the Future, your home for NXT and all that jazz at WrestleMedia.ca. I am the Jeff DeHaan, and holy it's hot. Oh, it has been brutal the last few days. I'm happy that it's the weekend and I haven't had to work for a couple of days. But even without working, it's just you don't want to do anything. It's ridiculous. I'm tired all the time. I'm hot, sticky and sweaty and just gross feeling. But it's better than snow. Yeah, I'm one of those people who isn't a fan of being too hot, but at the same time will take it over the winter weather because I really don't like the cold and the snow and the ice. How about you? How's your week been? I hope you're doing well. I don't have anywhere to go with that. I mean, I'm flying solo this week, obviously, so I don't have any witty banter. But yes, I hope you're doing well. Before this gets completely off the rails, I might as well jump into the news. It's a lot easier to banter about how someone's week went when they actually have someone else to talk to. So yes, news. Starting off with something that I don't know quite how I feel about this, and that is the NXT Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, showing up on Monday Night Raw. I get that it's exposure for NXT, and it might give them a bit of a boost. But the last time this happened, the tag champs weren't long for this world, and they wound up not forfeiting, but relinquishing the tag titles without being beaten. And then actually weren't seen on WWE television for a few weeks. We only just saw the Viking Raiders recently again. I'm not saying they were pushed aside or anything, but I don't know. I'm not overly crazy about NXT title holders going up to the main roster before they lose the titles. And I went over this when the Raiders went up, so I'm not going to rehash the whole thing. And I don't know if that's the case this time, because there was a lot of people kind of calling that out after Monday, and a lot of people were saying, oh, no, Street Profits are still NXT. So I think this might have just been a case of Paul Heyman kind of staking his claim, saying he's interested in them. So when they're done in NXT, they'll be going to Monday Night Raw. That's fine. But man, the NXT tag team scene really can't afford to lose any more people. So I really hope that's not the case. I hope they're not going to get called up soon. I'd rather them stay in NXT for a little while at least, till we can get a few more teams established there. And it's not that there aren't some established teams, but there's like Lorcan and Birch who are like the mechanic team and stuff. Like, it's not like it was when you had DIY and the Authors of Pain and TM61, and the Revival was still there for a bit then, and stuff like that. It's kind of taken a bit of a lull, so I don't want to see the Street Profits get called up too quickly. But speaking of tag teams, although tag teams that are a little more elite, and no, I am not talking about the Young Bucks. I am talking about a team called Private Party. If you've watched some of Being the Elite or even The Road to Fyter Fest, you would have caught a glimpse of them. And of course at Fyter Fest, where they impressed a lot of people in their match. Most notably, Nick and Matt Jackson, the aforementioned Young Bucks, were very impressed. And coming out of the match at Fyter Fest, I believe it was a triple threat tag. They were in the match with SCU and the Best Friends. Following that match, Nick and Matt Jackson offered Isaiah Kennedy and Mark Quinn. Is it Quinn? Quen. Well, it's obviously not Queen because there's only one E, so I'm going to go with Quinn. They were offered a full-time AEW contract. So, obviously, they did something right. Good on them. Bravo, gentlemen. And if you haven't caught Fyter Fest, yeah, it was deserved. These guys impressed definitely in that match. Very happy to see them get this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing a lot more from them in All Elite Wrestling. You know who else is very well known for his work in tag teams and kind of made a career of being a tag team guy? The Road Dogg, Jesse James. Well, it's recently been brought to light what his actual role is at the PC, and apparently lately he is teaching character development. And at first I was like, he's only really had the one character for the most part. He was the roadie, but once he actually became a Road Dogg, he kind of rode that horse till it died. And it's probably still kind of limping along if he wanted to get on to like a old school Raw or something. But then I thought about it and I'm like, yeah, but he's even admitted that he's never the most gifted wrestler, but he got over because of his promo skills. So really, he's probably a very, very solid choice to be teaching character development. And because basically character development is probably just, this is how you get over. So I just thought that was cool. There isn't a whole lot of details about it. It's mostly just, we now know what his role is, and it's actually probably a pretty good role for him. So, good on you, Road Dogg. Good on you. Flipping back to All Elite Wrestling, the road to Fight for the Fallen, we've already had 2 videos for it, which is funny because we're probably only going to get a third since it's technically less than a week away. Patrons, keep your ears peeled for some quick picks, hopefully. But the latest episode, episode 2, was actually really interesting for a couple of reasons. One, a great deal of the episode focused on Brandy Rhodes. And I was quite surprised how personal she got. She talked a lot about her past, like her childhood as a figure skater, and how she was always considered one of the best. But when it came to showtime and competitions, she would falter, she would stumble. And she talked about how she got in her own way, the pressure of it, self-doubt, and self-sabotage really is what caused her to fail time and again, because when it wasn't a competition, she was one of the best. And she loved it, but the competition aspect was always very difficult for her. And it was really interesting because I'd never seen this side of her. First of all, I had never known that she had done figure skating. But even aside from that, for her to get so personal was really eye-opening. And she even said, all the cocky things she's been saying about Allie heading into this match was all smoke. it was all smoke and mirrors kind of thing. No pun intended to her husband's former theme song. And here we are, going into this match, she was kind of coming off as the heel, and now this just was such a sentimental kind of babyface thing. And, I mean, this is basically the closest thing they've got to TV when it comes to setting up these shows. So to then see this was eye-opening, to say the least. And on that same episode, we go from eye-opening to head-scratching. See, because they announced a match for Fight for the Fallen. And they got some splaining to do. Lots of splaining. It's a 6-man tag team match featuring Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, Joey Janela. And they're taking on the team of Shawn Spears, Sammy Guevara, and MJF. Now, on paper, this doesn't seem all that odd. I mean, Havoc, Allen, and Janela are kind of all baby faces. I mean, Joey's kind of, I don't know if I'd necessarily call him a baby face, but he's not necessarily an outright heel either. He's pretty popular. The other three are clear-cut heels. So, again, on paper, this match makes sense. Until, you get into the storyline aspects of it and how Maxwell Jacob Friedman is best friends with Cody Rhodes, and he's the salt of the earth, and he was the first one, as far as wrestlers, him and the SCU, who hit the ring after Shawn Spears had clocked Cody with the steel chair at Fyter Fest. They even, during this same episode, had a backstage altercation between MJF and Shawn Spears. And yet here they are on the same team. Now, I'm not saying they're going to turn a blind eye to what they've been filming for this storyline and this angle. It just seems weird that they were thrown onto the same team without any explanation ahead of time. Obviously, I'm sure the next episode will get some sort of explanation, or at the very least during the match. I don't see these two coexisting. If they just completely blow this off and ignore the fact that these two are on the same team, that would just be ridiculous and kind of a mistake. But I don't think AEW would pull that. I would like to think they're smarter than that. And speaking of Maxwell Jacob Friedman, a video has surfaced recently of young Max on the Rosie O'Donnell show. For starters, it's kind of adorable. It's 5-year-old Max Friedman going on the Rosie O'Donnell show and singing "You Are My Sunshine, You Are My Sunshine" in a very operatic voice. It's cute, it's silly, it's very typical of the Rosie O'Donnell show, which aired back in the 90s. While I was in high school, which is kind of sad and makes me feel old that MJF was only 5 at the time. But the really interesting thing, and by the way, you can find this easily on YouTube, just search MJF and Rosie, and it's like the first one that pops up. It's about 5 or 6 minutes. It's well worth a watch. But one of the things she asks him is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, do you want to be an opera singer? And he said, yeah, I want to be either an opera singer or a professional wrestler. His favorites at the time were Goldberg and The Rock. I thought that was pretty cool. As someone who, admittedly, throughout my entire life, didn't have a lot of dreams, didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be, as much as I was a fan of wrestling, I also kind of put it on such a pedestal that I never thought it was attainable, so I never bothered trying. Maybe that's why that Brandy Rhodes video hit me as hard as it did. But to see him at such a young age, at 5 years old, to say, yeah, I want to be a wrestler. And now he's one of the best heels in the industry going right now. It's kind of crazy to see that he wanted it at such a young age, and he just never gave up on that dream. He followed it, and here he is, and he's still pretty young. The sky's the limit for this guy, and I see nothing but great things for MJF. But I thought that was a pretty cool video, all the same.
Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Tales from the PC. Not a lot this week. There was a few, but there was one interesting one. I think I'm going to leave that one to last. Start off, Wesley Blake, during NXT Road Loop, went back to his hometown, and it's a pretty simple video, but I thought it was kind of cool. Like, he went to his old high school gym to work out just for the sake of nostalgia, and wound up getting asked by one of the coaches to go and speak to a class. So I thought that was kind of cool, even though I'm not really a big fan of the Forgotten Sons. It's just nice to see, people, quote unquote, go home again. So I thought that was cool. Another one, speaking of NXT Road Loops, Lacey Lane, in her first NXT Road Loop, going shopping for cowboy boots and doing various things, but we got to see a little bit of her in the ring, and I've seen a bit. I think she's done a little bit of TV, and she's also been a part of the Mae Young Classic. I might be mixing the two up a little bit, but what I've seen of Lacey Lane, I've really, really enjoyed. So I hope we get to see more of her on NXT TV. But it was an interesting enough video as well. But the one that I really, really enjoyed this week was a video spotlighting Josiah Williams. This is the guy who rapped Adam Cole to the ring at TakeOver 25. And that's actually where most of this video focuses. But he's also a dude, if you look up Wrestle and Flow, he's a guy who's been rapping over wrestling themes for a while, and Triple H and WWE took notice, and he's actually like a digital content creator for WWE now, which is pretty cool. But then the video, it focuses on who Josiah is, but it also goes into that performance and what it meant to him, and it was a pretty cool video overall. As a side note, there's another video of him interviewing Cesaro and just talking to him at the PC, so that's another really cool one. I'm definitely not opposed to seeing more content from Josiah Williams. I think that'll be pretty cool. I'd love to see them maybe have him focus for their Uncaged series where they release theme songs. Have one track be him rapping over a theme song, whether it be a classic one or a current one. I mean, they have so many that are instrumental ones. Or they could even remix something and have him do it. I think that would be a nice, rare track addition to these Uncaged albums that WWE keeps releasing on Spotify. I think that would be cool personally, but that's just me. So, for WrestleMedia and all that good stuff that you can find at WrestleMedia.ca, I am the Jeff DeHaan. And best of luck in your future endeavors.
This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything.